So hello guys, welcome to EduTap. So guys, as the NABARD notification is out, I hope now that you all are preparing really hard for this examination and your preparation is going on in a sprint mode. Now if I talk about today's session guys, I will be basically discussing with you the most important things that you have to keep in mind when you are preparing for your current affairs section for the papers of ESI, ARD and GA. And one thing that is very important for the current affairs is that there is no segregation of phase 1 and phase 2 current affairs. You have to prepare the current affairs thoroughly for the phase 1 and I say phase 2 and even for your interview. So which means to circumvent all these things in a collaborative manner, the current affairs play a very important part in your examination preparation. Now guys, if you are new to our YouTube channel, kindly subscribe to the YouTube channel, and then guys, to get the free material that we are providing on the YouTube channels, you can subscribe to the Telegram channel, the link for which is given in the description below. Now first of all, let us analyze the examination of NABARD. So we have seen in the previous year paper that in the phase 1 NABARD has made a little bit change. The change that was made is there was a new section that was introduced, that is a merit section was introduced in the phase 1 section, which comprises of three sections, that is general awareness of 20 marks, and both ESI and ARD, that is economic and social issues, and agriculture and rural development, that were catering 40 marks each. So out of these 100 marks, basically your cutoff will be decided for the phase 2 examination. And here guys, if I say, the current affair has played a very prominent role for clearing the cutoffs in this examination. Now moving towards the phase 2 of the examination, that we have seen that the pattern was set up on the basis of RB, that is an objective and a descriptive paper was set, which were of 50 marks each. Now here also, to write a better descriptive answer and to solve objective questions, the current affairs, the thorough knowledge of current affairs has played a very prominent role. Now if I talk about, as I am discussing the current affairs, so what is current affairs guys? Current affairs is basically one of the core thing that you have to cover when you are preparing for the NABARD grade examination. In today's lecture, I will be explaining about current affairs, that is what are the priority orders in which you have to start preparing for the current affairs. If you are preparing current affairs, that is really good, but if you haven't, you want to channelize your current affairs preparation, then guys, you have to set up a priority order for the current affairs. After that, when you have prioritized your orders, then the next important thing is what are the sources from where you have to cover the sources, the priority order sources that you have decided, from where you have to cover these specific sources. And from these sources, the next important thing question comes is how many months of these sources has to be covered by you. So I will be discussing that thing. Last but not the least is a very common question that generally comes to our mind because you read a lot of things. The most important thing is, so how to retain this thing. So each and every solution I will be explaining to you in this session. Now first of all, let's start with the priority order thing. Guys, when I talk about current affairs, so if you look at the previous year papers of NABARD, there are some common priority orders in which you have to start preparing. The first thing that you have to start is with the government schemes, because government schemes play a very prominent role not just in phase 1 of your examination but also in the phase 2 of the examination. So if you look at the previous year paper of 2021, there were majority of questions that were being asked from ESI. In ESI section, questions were asked. Questions were asked in ARD section also, and even in GA, the questions were asked. When I talk about phase 2, the phase 2 question was quite government scheme dominated. So there were a lot of questions that were being asked from the government schemes. So which tells us that the schemes play a very prominent role in the phase 1 and phase 2 of your examination. After the government schemes, the second priority order should be given to the reports, rankings and indices like Union Budget, Economic Survey, Socio-Economic Caste Census, Census of 2011, new reports released by World Bank, UNICEF, or the reports that are being released by national organizations like Niti Aayog. So these are the important things that needs to be covered, which means your second priority should be given to the reports, ranking and indices. Then after, the third prominent topic are the latest developments that are related to syllabus of ESI and ARD, because a defined syllabus of ESI and ARD has been given. So you have to cover those topics that are related to your syllabus, the latest developments that are there. Last but not the least is a very prominent topic of static GA, because you can talk about ARD static, ESI static, that are specifically related to syllabus, but there are some common topics of static current affairs which we have seen in news. So here, if you have thoroughly prepared the current affairs and if you have not gone in detail of the ESI current affairs, or ARD current affairs, just from the news also you can have an idea of that, of the basic thing. For ARD, a detailed knowledge of current static is required. But when I talk about the basic current in the ESI section, guys, there is a very prominent thing. The questions that are generally being asked, even in the static portion, are basically being asked from those news that are being seen in news. So here also, your static GA preparation can also be done by the current affairs. Now let's start with the first priority order that we have set up, that is the government scheme section. When I talk about government schemes, guys, the most prominent thing that we have seen from the past 2 years is, one important thing is you have to cover the new schemes, old schemes, or schemes in the budget or economic survey. Now duration of the scheme, guys, past 9 months is more than sufficient. If you have prepared thoroughly the past 9 months, the schemes you have looked out, you have thoroughly prepared those schemes, you can score a very good number. I think majority of question or even all of the questions could be solved from the past 9 months. Okay. Then I talk about old schemes. So old schemes generally tells us a scheme like, I give you an example. Let's say recently Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana has completed 7 years. So which means it is an old scheme that was launched at least 2 years back, to 2 years prior to the examination. But the important thing here is, because it is a scheme that is now being seen in news, so this is important. Now you have to cover those specific schemes also. Okay. When I talk about schemes mentioned, so schemes when I mentioning all this, any scheme that is being mentioned in union budget or economic survey is the third prominent thing that you have to cover in the scheme section. Now here we have analyzed from how many months, from how many tenure your government schemes should be prepared. But what are the things that needs to be prepared in the government schemes? Let's look at this slide. So here, guys, the common questions that are being asked, based on that we have prepared a mind map for you, from which you have to remember these specific dimensions of the scheme. For example, they could ask you a question, they could give you some statements, and they could ask you a thing, identify the scheme. Then this is a common question, identify a scheme. It could be asked the phase 1 and even in the phase 2 examination. Then eligible beneficiaries, what is the eligibility age? 18 to 40 years, how many targets, who can avail the benefits? So eligible beneficiaries are there. The third prominent task are the nodal ministry and launch year. So nodal ministry, if it is there, or if it is being associated with any company for implementation, this is the thing that needs to be focused on when you are preparing the government schemes. Then the funding pattern. So funding pattern here, the most important thing that needs to be focused is, what is the type of a scheme? Is it a central sector scheme, or is it a centrally sponsored scheme? So if it is a central sector scheme, guys, their funding is not required, because we know central sector scheme 100% funding is basically government, given by the central government. But in the centrally sponsored scheme, you have to see the funding pattern between center and state. So here is a different pattern you can see in different schemes, because for center and states it is different. For center and northeastern states the funding pattern is different, and for the union territories the funding pattern is different. So funding pattern has to be focused on. Then is the objective of a scheme, the budget allocation, as I have seen in the previous slide. Schemes in budget. So here budget allocation plays a very prominent role. Then if there is any current development related to a scheme, if the scheme is being modified, then it is important, or some target has been achieved under a scheme, that specific development is important. And when I talk about tagline, guys, soil health card tagline, they has been asked in the examination of 2021 as well as in the examination of 2020. Swachh Dhara Khet Hara, tagline of soil health card has been asked. So which means the tagline of the important schemes are again important for our examination. Then if there is some brand ambassador, some restructuring has been done, all these things needs to be covered holistically for the government schemes, which will suffice your preparation both for phase 1 and phase 2 of the examination. So look at some questions. If we look at some questions that has been asked previous year, see, launch year, the question has been asked. Then budget allocation, the question has been asked. Key features, the question has been asked. So there has been questions that has been asked in previous year on the various dimensions that I have discussed just a few seconds earlier with you. So you have to focus on the schemes, on these dimensions when you are preparing for your government schemes section. These dimensions, take a printout and focus. Whenever you are reading that any specific scheme, try to see that each of the dimensions you have covered thoroughly or not. This is the core thing when you are preparing for the government schemes. Now let's look at the second priority order, that is the report section. When I talk about reports, guys, so what does reports comprises of? Reports talks about latest budget, economic survey, then socio-economic caste census data of 2011, then is the reports that are being released by national bodies like Niti Aayog, Ministry of Education, or by private organizations that are specifically related to India, like a report of Pratham Organization, annual status of education report, that is important. Then there are reports that are being released by international bodies like WTO or World Bank. For example, they have asked a question on UNICEF's COVID-19 report in the NABARD examination, phase 2 examination of NABARD in the previous year examination. So the international organizations like WTO, IMF, World Bank, UNICEF or UNEP, these needs to be covered thoroughly. Then guys, if I talk about RBI annual report and financial stability report, these are the other two reports which many of the students might feel that this is a report that is relevant for RBI, not for NABARD. But guys, these are equally relevant for NABARD also. They have asked a question on financial stability report in the previous year examination. So which means this report is also important for NABARD because this caters to a syllabus of ESI, that is reforms in banking and financial institutions. It is directly related to our topic syllabus of ESI. That's why these two reports are important for us. Then if I talk about ARD specific reports, livestock census, agri census, handloom census, Indian state of forest report, that has been specifically mentioned in the syllabus of ARD. So Indian state of forest report, the latest report, is important for our examination. Then the reports of NABARD that is being released, NABARD annual reports, reports released by Ministry of Agriculture, Department of Animal Husbandry. These reports that are related to agriculture specific things are very, very important for your examination. Now, if we look at some questions that are generally being asked from the report section here is, see, they have asked a question on census of 2011. Then, as I was discussing, they have asked a question on financial stability report. The question seems to be easy because they have asked a simple question, but guys, the question could be asked in depth also. So, financial stability report, the latest one, is important for us. Reforms in banking sector, ES 3.0 report has been released. Then, handloom census, as I was discussing, ARD specific censuses. So these are the important things that needs to be covered when you are preparing for the report section. Okay. Now, the third prominent priority order are the latest developments that are related to syllabus. So I will be discussing first with the ESI section, then we will move with the ARD section. Now, first of all, guys, the most important things when you have started preparing for NABARD is you have to be very thorough with your syllabus that is being given in the notification of the NABARD examination. You have to be very, very thorough about this thing. When I am saying thorough, because this will help you to able to find out that what are the news that are important for ESI section. Like I talked about, measurement of poverty, equally important for ESI static as well as ESI current affairs. Reports that I am talking to you. Take, see, regional economic operations, WTO has been mentioned here. World Bank has been mentioned here, IMF has been mentioned here. Now I am saying the question on the financial stability report, banking amendment rule. Why the questions are being asked? See at the your syllabus thoroughly. Reforms in banking and financial sector. The topic has been given. That's why these kind of questions are important. When we talk about the questions in GA sections, that the questions related to merger has been asked or some developments of banking has been asked. Why? Rural banking and financial institutions in India, if they are asked the question, they are asking questions on RRBs, let's say. Then the most important thing, as a lot of initiatives are being planned by the government, let's say if I give you an example of the national education policy, it is being consistently seen in news. So for here, the topic will be social infrastructure, education sector. Then there are lots of initiatives government are taking on health sector. So social sector health is important here. So guys, these are the important things for which the thorough understanding of syllabus is required. But now the next question comes, whether I have to cover each and every news. This will take a lot of time. For that, guys, the important thing that needs to be done is take some time, even at this point of time, look at the PY question, previous year questions, and then mark the important topics. Some of them I will be discussing with you even in this session also, just a few seconds after. But the thorough understanding of PYQs is required, so that will be able to help. That will be able to help you to see that what are the questions that needs to be covered on priority. The most important thing for here is solve the maximum number of MCQs as much as you can, and after that analyze the thing. If you have covered the news thoroughly, you solve some MCQs and you find something that was missing, so add that specific thing. If you have covered the news, you have left some part and the question has been asked on that specific part, which tells to you that this specific part that you have left in the news is also important for you, that needs to be covered. Okay, so data as well as understanding of the news is important. If we look at some of the questions that has been asked, there was a question on the previous year examination that was related to social sectors education, that is on the Nipun Bharat initiative. Question was asked. Then national education policy, the question has been asked. One thing very much important here is, guys, it's not always that a question will be asked on the current development. They can also ask you a question from the background of that specific news. If I talk about the questions on national education policy, so previous year Karnataka has become the first state to implement the national education policy. So students were expecting questions that they will be asking which was the first state to implement NEP. They have not asked the question on that line, but what they have asked is, they have asked a question on the details of national education policy. Two questions were seen in phase 1 and two questions were seen in phase 2 also. That is the important thing that has been seen in the examination. Now, if I talk about the next question, so Indian political system is a very prominent topic for NABARD also. We have seen a question on the, even in the static also, from the Indian political system. Public Accounts Committee, the questions has been asked, questions on scheduled languages has been asked, and even the question on Finance Commission was asked in your examination. Then guys, moving to the ARD. So let's understand the ARD syllabus. If I should out, so here I have given you the snippet of the ARD syllabus that has been asked. If I ask the question that has been asked from the ARD syllabus, see, from the animal husbandry, they have asked the question on the livestock's contribution of livestock to gross value addition, that is related to a topic of animal husbandry. Here it is being clearly given about the difference, the data pertaining to different species of livestock. Now see here, as the thing I was discussing with you, in the forestry they have given you Indian State of Forest report. See, just in your syllabus they have given you the things. Like if I give you the important agriculture or important initiatives, important government organizations, see, they have mentioned IPCC, UNFCC, COP meetings, NAPCC, INDC. So these are the important things that have been given in your syllabus, which needs to be prepared thoroughly. Role of Krishi Vigyan Kendras, KV key scheme is important. They have been specifically mentioning this thing. Now, Magnarega scheme, commonly the questions are being asked. So that has been given in the syllabus. So which means thorough understanding of syllabus plays a very prominent role, guys. This is one important thing that you have to focus on when you have started your preparation. Now, after that, guys, if I talk about general awareness, the last 20 marks, if I talk about, so it circumferences all things, which means the questions that you are preparing for ESI, ARD, they are equally relevant and they could be asked even in the general awareness section. Along with that, there are some specific topics that needs to be prepared for the general awareness section, which includes the government launches, the partnerships of the governments like bank alliance, MOUs, agreements of the government, sports section, winners, losers, venues. Here one thing is important here, even in the GA section, is thorough understanding of current affair is required, guys. It's not just a mere reading of a headline will solve you this thing. You have to prepare the current affairs, each and every part thoroughly. So themes of important days, science and tech, news, if I talk about cyclones, if there's any take, any book or author that is being seen in news, or any milestone that has been achieved. These are the important topics that needs to be prepared by you thoroughly. Why I am saying you thoroughly? Let's look at the example. See, Ravi Kumar Dahiya has won a medal in Tokyo Olympics. This is a common news that we are preparing. If you have just read the heading, you know only this specific thing. But what they have asked in the question is, he has become which Indian wrestler, for which you need a thorough understanding of current affairs. That is what I am saying to you. Thoroughly you have to prepare the current affairs, not just mere heading. Thoroughly go through the topic. If any milestone has been achieved, you have to prepare them thoroughly. Then is the Indo-Nepal remittance facility. They have asked a question, that is under which specific thing this thing has been implemented, that is under the NEFT thing. So they have asked a question on that line also. So this was basically about the general awareness, the three sections that we've discussed in the merit section, that is ESI, GA and ARD. But one thing that is left is static GA. So when I talk about static J, guys, commonly you have to refer these specific topics like national parks, airports location, dams, river stadiums, basic banking terms, archaeological sites, nuclear power plants, countries or international organizations. These are the common topics that needs to be prepared. But along with that, if anything that is being seen in news, for example, any summit is being seen in news, any conference is being seen in news, you have to cover them also thoroughly. So these also, because the static basic understanding of that summit or conference is also required. So if I give you an example, they have asked a question on the international organization, that is which of the following is not a member of ASEAN. They have asked a question. Similarly, they have asked a question on Kyoto Protocol. Okay, so Kyoto Protocol, it's not that something new has been asked. Kyoto Protocol was seen in news before your examination. What they have done is they have asked a static question on the Kyoto Protocol to you. So this is how your current affair knowledge could also help you in solving the static question. Even ASEAN was seen in news. So that is the thing. Current has to be prepared very, very thoroughly, which will be helping you in understanding the static portion also. So if I talk about now the sources, the third thing that I was discussing, what are the sources that needs to be covered? So guys, here I have listed some important sources that you can refer for your preparation of NABARD grade examination, that is PIB, Hindu, LiveMint, Business Standard, Krishi Jagran or NABARD websites. But if you tell me the one source that you should not miss, that is the most important source here, is PIB, guys. This is the source that you have not missed. If any single source you want me, that you can start with the current affairs magazine. Now here one thing I want to suggest to all the students is you have to prepare in a smart way, because you will not be able to cover all the sources. So what you can do is start with any current affair magazine and prepare PIB thoroughly. So guys, PIB has to be prepared thoroughly because majority of questions are being asked from the PIB. So that's why the PIB plays a very prominent role for your examination. Now, for talk about the coverage of the current affairs. So guys, for your both phase 1 and phase 2 topics like reports, if I talk about government schemes or the any important ESI current affairs or ARD current affairs, last 6 to 9 months are very, very important. And out of these, last 4 months are very important. But when I talk about government schemes, 9 months are important. From there, last 6 months are the most important. In the GA section, last 6 months of GA is the most important. But the last 4 months are the most important thing here. Okay, so 6 to 9 months generally if I talk about, so 6 to 9 months of current affairs are very important, but out of this current affairs, last 4 months play very, very important role for your examination. So guys, as this was all about your strategy for the current affairs, now the key points that you needs to remember for your examination, for your preparation is, you have to prepare current affairs, that is thoroughly. That is one thing that I have discussed even in my lecture also, that is current affairs needs to be prepared thoroughly. We have seen an example of Ravi Dhahiya question that has been asked. So if you have not prepared thoroughly, you might not be able to solve the question. So not mere reading will not help you to clear or to help clear you the phase 1 examination. Even you cannot score good marks also. So you have to prepare the current affairs thoroughly. Static topics which are mentioned in current affairs, they have to be prepared because they can help you in solving the questions that are related to static G that is being asked in your examination. Now, one of the most important thing that needs to be focused here is the practice, because for retention guys, the most important thing is practice. If you are practicing a lot of MCQs, that will gain your confidence and you will be learning a lot. So practice as much MCQs as you can. And one thing very much important when you are practicing here is, after giving any MCQs or after solving the MCQs, analyze them thoroughly. Because if you have read the current affairs, you have practiced the MCQs, the most important thing that will help you in retaining is analyzation. So if you have not analyzed, then also all your preparation or all जितनी भी आप मेहनत कर रहे हो वो सब waste हो जाएगी. So this is one thing. If you have to prepare, if you have to thoroughly regain, you have to thoroughly retain the current affairs, then analyzation of the practice MCQs that you have given is very, very important for your examination. So guys, this was all about the strategy for the NABARD grade examination, that is for the current affairs section. So still also, if you guys have any kind of doubt, you could drop us an email at hello@edutap.co.in. You could even place us a call at this number, that is 8146207241. And if you have any kind of suggestion, you want us to make a video on any other specific topic, you could tell us about that in the comment section also. So guys, wishing you all the best for your examination. Prepare hard and I hope you will succeed. So wishing you all the best. Bye bye.